Hi. So in programming, sometimes things go wrong. Of course, when you start, it looks like everything goes smooth and steady, but sometimes code will have issues when your users input wrong values. So for example, imagine you have a UI element that's supposed to collect a user's name, and perhaps the user inputs a number for his or her name instead of the string which is supposed to represent the name. There you have an issue. Now in that, you throw an exception by using the throw keyword. Now let's create a function here. Let's call it bad network call. So this is going to represent a bad network call that throws exception. Nope, not that. So it throws an exception, and let's just have, okay, we can call it network call, so it's not always bad. But the network call is, we're going to assume it's going to be a bad network call. Let's say you're trying to get something from the network, but there's no internet access or you're not authorized. Something happened and you throw an exception. This is how you do it in that. So over in main, we'll say try network call. And then in order to catch the exception, what we say is on exception. This is how we do it. I can now say print, oh, there is an issue. So what happens here is that it tries this network call. Once it calls the network says, oh, an exception. So this didn't go fine. It throws an exception. So on exception, it does this. So once we run this, there's an issue because it throws an exception. This is how that does its exception handling. Now, sometimes you want to handle some specific exceptions, like integer division by 0. Of course, you don't want to be divided by 0. So this is an exception, but a specific type of exception. So we'll tell the person, no, you can't do that. You can't divide by 0. So once I run this, what do you think is going to output here? Of course, it says there's an issue. It doesn't recognize this because all I threw was an exception. So in that, what happens is that you can list as many specific exceptions as you like. But if the exception you threw was not handled by any unique exception, it goes to the general exception. Once none of them is satisfied by the exception you threw, it goes down to the general exception. So you can have different custom exceptions. You could even create your own custom exception. So for example, once I run this code, it prints this because what I threw is a general exception, and this is talking about a particular exception. But once I go over here and do this, I'm talking about a specific type of exception. So once I run this, you can't do that. It runs the code in here. So sometimes also when you try an exception, you want to add a text. So I could say most times the text added might have some form of information. So once I catch the exception, if I desire to get that message, I can say catch E. So this variable represents the message. So I can say message is equal to E. So what it will print is, oh, there's an issue, message, try again, because I'm now receiving the message. So once we do this, oh, there's an issue, and the message is try again, the exception, try again. So that is a very brief overview of how that operators work. That exceptions, not that operators, sorry. Please, if you like this video, please like it, and if you want more like this, please subscribe.